Ryan Goodman and Tanguay Podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hey, everybody. This episode of the Bob, Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay Along for the Ride podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, because right now, new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. So check it out. Okay, fellas, the Garden is haunted. We saw the Bruins choke. The Celtics, you know, Bob, you've said it all along. They have the talent, but do they have what it takes? Do they have that killer instinct? Upset by Philadelphia 119-115. Harden goes off of 45 and beats out of the lineup. Should we have seen this coming?
Well, whatever happened to that defense that we talked about at the end of last year? The last two games, they have scored enough points to win. And they didn't have to worry. Should never have to worry about Trae Young's last shot. Shouldn't have to worry about James Harden's last shot. Particularly last night. This is one of the most aberrational games in the playoff history of the Boston Celtics or anywhere in the history of the league in 77 years, because they shot, what they shoot in the end.
59? 59%?
Yeah, and they was shooting 70% well into the game, right, and they weren't getting any separation. Come on, guys. What happened to this? How many times are we going to see open guys, nobody within a Mack truck distance of the nearest defender? Is this stupid rotations? Is it no? What is it? I mean, I'm not going to technically. All I know is it's happening. And it's not just a simple matter of, guy gets double teamed, and Harden, like the pass out to Tobias Harris, the big one down the middle.
That was great.
Those things happen, but still, that shouldn't be that. He shouldn't be that open. And
I mean, you have the defensive player of the year reigning in Marcus Smart. You've got a guy in Jaylen Brown that people thought was an elite defender at one point in his career. Jason Tatum, who's been a plus defender. Al Horford, who's been one of the better defenders at his position for 12, 15 years now. Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White, two really good defenders. There is no reason for this whatsoever. It absolutely, and again, like you said, we'll bury the lead here. Joel Embiid didn't even play in this game. Didn't even play. So it's going to be on James Harden, and he's going to have to go for 35 or 40 and put up an efficient 40, and in this case it was 45, to be able to win this game. It's an embarrassment. I mean, this was an embarrassing loss. I feel like as embarrassing as the Bruins lost the night before.
Well, the stakes, it ain't over. I'll invoke Yogi on you, but I mean, I've seen every kind of playoff series there is, and including in hockey 3-0 comeback, and in baseball 3-0 comeback. Anyway, and I've seen teams lose the first game and win the next four. I've seen it all. But have I not been saying for a few weeks now, I don't trust this team.
Yeah. I fought you. I fought you on this until last night. And now I'm with you. Now I'm with you that if you can't beat Philly, especially in crunch time, like, I get it. Okay, maybe again you're going to play with them. They still got a Hall of Famer in Harden. They got some other good players out there as well. Like Tobias is a good player. I mean, he's a good player. We know that. He's a veteran. He's a good player. But ultimately, when it comes down to crunch time, how you don't win that game is.
And how about
that shot clock violation play with Tatum and Brogdon both either not knowing, or I don't know what the hell they were both doing on that play. But for two veterans to make that bonehead of a play on the same play was just amazing to watch.
The last couple possessions was a you-know-what show.
Yeah.
And now, all right, so now we have to ask the question, how much of this, if any, reflects on coaching? Is now.
Well, I think it's a legitimate question, Bob, because, we understand why Ime had to go. But if you have a veteran coach or an older coach, and Ime's not even a veteran coach, he's just older, and he had more of if you had a veteran coach, someone who was older, that had more gravitas, say, as opposed to a 30-year-old young coach, and I'm not, it is what it is, who seems to be liked by the players as opposed to be feared by the players. I mean, you have to wonder if it's a factor.
Well, I mean,
I still put it on the players. I get it. Like that last play, maybe that wasn't the right play to run. Maybe you put the ball. I just don't understand why they're not running ball screen with Tatum and Jaylen Brown together more.
Yeah.
Because then it's like pick your poison. What are you going to do? One of them is going to be open. Instead of putting the ball in Marcus Smart's hands, which I know he's been really good last year plus, he's been much better. But still, do you trust Marcus Smart with the ball in his hands?
No, I mean, look, you got to give it to the guy.
Right.
This is, to me, we can skirt around the issue. I mean, this is on Tatum. I mean, Tatum is the man. Now,
yes.
Here's the question, to Bob's point about the coaching. All right, well, if the coach isn't going to rattle some cages, then the leader does.
Well, neither one are going to.
And they're not.
Neither one of those guys are going to.
See, here's my thing, Jeff, is I'm thinking out loud here. And I know I hate to make comparisons in the past, but there are just certain players that we have all covered on all of these teams that have, if you walked by them in the locker room and you didn't do your job, you hung your head a little bit. Yeah. There's none of that with this team. So we talk about it should be on the players, Jeff, but these players can't police themselves. That's obvious.
Well, it's got to be a Marcus Smart, I guess. But again, he's not your best player. He's your most vocal, and he's the one who made kind of they all made bonehead plays down the stretch. Everybody made them. It felt like.
See, I think
did not Smart call those other two out last year?
Yeah, he did. He did.
So
that was early, though. That was before they started winning
I know,
at a high level.
Point I'm making, it's in him.
Right.
Theoretically, if anybody, to answer Gary's question, Marcus Smart has assumed that role in the past and last year. We know that. It's just now, as far as not playing with Embiid thing, there's a long history in this league of guys not being there and the team rising to the occasion. In a short run, okay, we give him last night. Now, if this were to continue and he doesn't play game 2 and the 76ers win game 2 and in Boston, then it's just.
Hey, Bob, do you remember the last time? Do you remember? I mean, I'm talking to the guy who remembers everything. But again, you know who my favorite player is of all time. I've told you this, Andrew Toney. And you remember what he did in game 2 of that 81 series?
I remember game 1.
Strangler.
He had 35. He had 35 in game 2. They won both.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have to sell me on him. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. So, and by the way, that's then of course just going back. 82 is the last time the 76ers beat a Celtic team in the playoffs. It's
I feel like Maxey has some Andrew Toney in him. He's not as big, strong.
Oh no,
he's right. He can score. He's just a prolific scorer who can get him in buckets, and that's what Andrew Toney was.
Well, Toney was a different physical being, and he's. Yes. I would say he's the most contemptuous scorer I've ever seen. He laughed at you. Double team. What's that? I mean, he almost like he didn't like being open. He'd rather have somebody contesting him. I'm not kidding either. Anyway, that's story for another day. Maxey, we've talked about Maxey supposedly, had not had a good track record against the Celtics. Well, he kind of, he showed people last night what he's been all about. How about in the first half, DeAndre Melton goes 5 for 5, and doesn't Harvey play in the second half, by the way. There was a lot to unpack from it, but it is so when you shoot like that and you don't win, and not only you cannot get the big, you can't get it. Well, they did have a 12-point lead at one point, which disappeared in about, I think it was 1 minute and 42 seconds. That one disappeared.
How torn are you, Bob, because of the Doc factor in this series? Because I know, like, especially now that they took a 1-0 lead, they're going to go home at least with a split. They've got home court advantage now, and if somehow they have control of this series, which they could at one point, if Embiid comes back, like, this could be it for Doc.
It's not a matter of being torn for me. It's a matter of I won't feel as bad if they lose to the Doc Rivers team as I would if they lose to anybody else. thing for me. I mean, this is personal. I really.
We all love Doc. We all do. Like,
and you know,
where does Doc rank? Here's one for you, Gary. I like this one. Where does Doc rank on your all-time favorite coaches or managers to cover in Boston?
For me, he's number one.
Wow.
Oh, number one. I mean, in terms of coaches and managers,
Yes.
Joe Morgan was, always a delight in baseball.
Yes.
And he would be the baseball answer in terms of coverage. Although I suspect that, if I were around Cora every day, he would be right there.
Francona was awesome. I
like Francona very much.
I was going to say, everybody loves Doc. But Francona was.
Awesome.
Francona was so good and just such a character. He remembered your name.
Yep.
He
remembered me. Listen, he remembered me a couple years ago, Gary. He lives in Tucson. He went to Arizona. So he lives in Tucson in the offseason. He's in the front row watching the pregame before Arizona's playing. And he remembered me from years ago. And I was like a stringer. Like, I wasn't there every game. I might have been there 10, 15 games a year. He was just Doc is so engaging.
Tito's a big hoop fan, so he saw you, huge hoop fan. But I would say Doc and Tito for me.
I mean, Doc last night before the game, guys, when he went for 2 minutes on Heather Walker, I was crying. I was tearing up watching that.
Boy, that was impressive to read. I read about it this morning. That was impressive.
You got to watch the video. It was heartbreaking.
He's genuine. He's a genuine guy that just is. But now that you asked me the question, I wasn't prepared for that question, which is fine. I can't say a bad word about Chris Ford as a guy to cover. And I've always said he's the most normal human being of all.
Yeah, you have.
Chris Ford he's your next door neighbor. Instead of going to an insurance company, he was going to coach the Celtics. Then he's coming home and shovel the snow. I mean, he was absolutely the most normal human being of them all.
Yeah.
No airs whatsoever, but we've been, I'm thinking about it now. We've been pretty blessed with some good guys, So but I'm very fond of Doc, and I won't feel as bad. Quite frankly, I'll be honest. If Doc goes on to do it, and the Celtics, and it's not the Celtics, that'll be fine with me.
All right, we got more on this coming up. Okay, let's take a break from the fellas to tell you about FanDuel. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, because right now new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, you got to get the app. The app's the way to go. It is so easy to use. You get great promotions every day with the app. It's safe and secure, and you get paid instantly. How about that? Instant cash with the FanDuel app. There's no better place to bet all your playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issue is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, and Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Gambling Helpline MA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Visit www.mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467369 in New York. 4700 in Wyoming, or visit www.1800gambler.net in West Virginia. Now let's get back to the show. All right, fellas. I want to go back to Embiid. Do you think he plays in the next game, Jeff? You have any idea?
I don't know. They've kept it pretty close to the vest on this one, and they should. I mean, Joel's so tough, but man, he's always hurt. And I said this honestly when he was drafted, and he had the issues then and missed the year, and he's just had one thing after the other. When he's out there, he's incredible. But again, it's one of those things where you just don't know if you're going to have him when it matters most.
The same can be said, of course, of Anthony Davis. That's been the history of his. We all know. Always the great what if. If he's out there, the Lakers are trouble. If he's not out there, and he's not out there a whole hell of a lot. Yeah.
Many of these guys now, Kawhi, Chris Paul, who are the durable? I would love to know the superstar. Paul George has been out, obviously, a ton, hurt. Right. Who are the most durable older superstars? Like Devin Booker. He missed some time too, but
yeah, I mean, and LeBron's,
Tatum's been durable. Tatum has been durable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. But
if you're the Sixers and Embiid is 50-50, I mean, but you got to go. Do you make the move?
Because if he's 50-50, you're not playing him. You're not playing him in game 2 if he's 50-50. He's got to come in and tell you he's 90% to me in order to play him in game 2. Because now you're playing with a little. I don't want to say house money, but if you go back with a split and a healthy Embiid, you feel like, all right, we got a chance in this series now.
The other thing is, it's not a panic time for them if he's iffy, because Paul Reed has played very well for them in these games, and people are used to that idea who he is, and he's not a stiff, and he's good enough. That's one of my categories in sports. That
you're tough. You know what they are, Bob? This team is just they're mentally tough. A lot of them. Like
Doc said, they were street fighters, right?
Yeah, they really. I mean, again. We've talked to we know George Niang pretty well. I know him super well. And George is he's a man. Like he's just the way he conducts himself, the way he is, he's been counted out. Nobody thought he was good enough. Tobias is smart and tough, and obviously Melton, Maxey, a lot of these guys.
The ultimate of anybody in the league today who's playing on a good team of the box score will not tell you, and that's Tucker.
Oh, he's a beast. He's the guy who sets the tone for them. He's that guy.
Point last night, Reggie Miller said Tucker's been setting all these these thunderous picks, and of course there's no stat for that. But the fact is, he's important to that team, and of course, the big moment comes, and he's lurking in that corner. Don't leave him alone. And
that's who I wanted the Celtics to get. That was the guy. I don't know if you remember. A year ago, I was saying that's who they needed in that locker room and on the court, because he's going to hold everybody accountable. And if he's got to MF them, he's going to MF them.
Funny how winning follows that guy around, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. One of those people.
It's hard because Mazzulla's in a tough spot, right? He's trying to kind of make sure he's got the players behind him. So it's going to be tough. And Marcus Smart, guys, was an Ime guy. He was clearly an Ime guy.
Totally.
Tatum was a Mazzulla guy. So, I think Mazzulla's walking this kind of tightrope of what to do with Marcus Smart, because, again, he's afraid of obviously pissing him off. And this team doesn't have, like we talked about, a vocal leader. I hate to get back to the Celtics here, which is what I'm doing.
Well, no, it's fine. But that's the issue.
Who's that vocal leader?
Well, I mean, Jeff, this is the point. It's a great question, and it's a good point by you, because my feeling or my observation from afar is that Marcus is willing to say it, but I don't know if Tatum's willing to listen.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think he's willing to listen. I think Jason's pretty good about that. You're just not going to get a lot of fire out of these guys, out of Tatum, out of Brogdon, out of White, out of Horford. Jaylen Brown's the one you would think, other than Smart, would be able to have it, but he doesn't really have much fire. He really doesn't do much on the court. In fact, I give him a lot of credit. He's kind of the one all-star that really doesn't complain to the refs or say much of anything. He just goes about his business on the court. So you got a lot of those dudes instead of a PJ Tucker type. I think Marcus Smart is your only guy. And again, the question is, how much respect does he command?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very tough for him to command the respect when you have two players that people think are better than him. I mean, it's hard for him to be a leader when we talk about Brogdon and White being above him on the depth chart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, right, Bob?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking on the fly as you're saying that. You think it shouldn't be that hard if you're right, reasonable. But you remember, I know that the fact that he's joined them on the cover of Sports Illustrated, I guess, was a last second negotiation or something like that. That to get him in, that he wanted to be included, with them, and whatever happened. He did get on that cover.
So let me ask this question about Mazzulla, because I remember when Casey Jones took over the Celtics and Bob was there, and I was at the University of Maine and Jeff Goodman was, I don't know, at a prom or something. But anyways, but when Casey took over the Celtics, he was, tell Larry what time the game is type of thing. And that is the perception of Mazzulla, or at least they brought him in because he's liked by the best player. Was it too soon for that? Is this Celtic roster mature enough to have a nice guy coach, Bob?
Well, that's the question. It has to be answered. This being answered. And we knew during the regular season that the playoffs were that was one thing, and the playoffs were entirely something else. And this was his final exam for 2022-23. So we didn't know. No, there was an open, fair question to ask. And one of the things that go in the playoffs was how is Joe Mazzulla up to the task? And it's not story's not written yet. The first round was shaky, but then again, remember in 2008 they went life and death with that Hawk team in the first round, 7 games, so it can. In fact, in 2008, I used to marvel. Each series got easier.
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
It got easier. I mean, it kicked the Lakers' ass. It was a 6-game rout. Frankly,
I mean, we're only one game in. That's the only thing I'd say. Now, it's a game. It's a forgettable game if you're a Celtics fan. But again,
doesn't look good.
Well, I mean, no, but they could come out and kick Philly's ass in 2, and then get that momentum back and win this thing in 5, and it wouldn't surprise anybody. Wouldn't shock anybody.
No, so no, but we don't want to. We shouldn't overreact. But there's things about this that are very disturbing. I can't get that last possession out of my head. I mean, it absolutely was a what show, and that's right. There's too many good players on the floor at that moment for that to happen and transpire. Absolutely, it was embarrassing as hell.
And the path is so nice, like it's set up for the Celtics now to go to the final. In my opinion, I just don't think the Knicks are ready. And Miami's Miami, but they beat the crap out of them last year, and they don't have Tyler Hero. And the Celtics are healthy. If they're one thing, they are healthy and physically right now. So it just looks like a very, very easy road to get to the NBA Finals. Maybe it looks too easy.
Too easy. I know. Maybe it does look too easy. And
right, guys, let's move to the West now. Jokic has had something to say. He had 39. 97-87 win, low-scoring game. Denver is now 2-0 over the Phoenix Suns. Bob, time to take Denver seriously.
Yeah, well, I've been saying for a couple of weeks that nobody outside of Denver takes them seriously. Nobody outside of Memphis takes them seriously, which they shouldn't have. And that's fine. And I think the consensus pick, and I was right there on that bandwagon, was Phoenix. And especially the way that they won all those games, the first X whatever games when they had Durant and Booker together. However, I did have a question about Phoenix, and last night was Exhibit A. Bench. How deep is Phoenix? Last night, their bench played 71 out of 240 minutes. The starters played 169. Their bench scored 4 points last night. Next question.
You know what it comes to? What did I say a week or 2 weeks ago? Health. And Chris Paul's already hurt with a groin injury. And
I missed that, by the way, guys.
Yeah, he got hurt in the second half. So who knows? Those groin injuries are like hammies, similar in terms of lagging. Yeah, you think you're 100%, you're not. But Chris Paul's hurt every postseason, I feel like. Every single postseason, there is something that holds Chris Paul and whatever team he's with back. KD didn't play well yesterday. Booker was great again. I mean, Booker's been money through these playoffs. He has put himself, to me, in a different stratosphere than a lot of these other guys. But again, if Paul's not going to be healthy and KD's off, you're kind of a one-man show, and that's not enough to beat Denver. It's not enough. We got
to me, burying the lead in the West. That other series, is absolutely. I only wish it started 2 hours earlier every night. That's the big problem.
You're gonna have to take a nap today.
I mean, really, but the endless fascination with that. I've been saying for 2 months that the Warriors could be the '69 Celtics, and they look like they're ready to try to do that. And the Lakers, gang, I'm taking them seriously. It wouldn't remotely shock me if the Lakers get to the finals. And although I am picking the Warriors, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't be, but not enough. It's not emphatic. It's like, I got to pick somebody. I'll pick the Warriors. And I love the way they're playing it. And of course, who is transcendent.
Jeez.
And, I mean, there's so much to sink your teeth into in that series, historically and everything else, So, I mean, the West is suddenly really shaping up, to be a lot of fun. I
told you guys, this is the series I wanted. I know Bob wanted that pretty little new shiny toy, Sacramento Kings.
I did.
But now you don't. Come on, you want this. This is what we wanted. This is going to be the last time we see you watch. This will be the last time we see Steph and LeBron in the playoffs playing against each other. Telling you, I don't think they're going to play against each other again. This will be it.
How about Steph last game now? In the context of a seventh game. I mean, it's historic. It's one of the great performances in NBA history.
Yeah.
And period. And rising to a moment with like that. But he's special. He truly is.
So Jeff, are you saying that LeBron isn't going to stick around to play with his son, or
no? I just think the way it's going to happen, injury. There's too many factors that go in that they may never play each other again. I mean, first of all, again, LeBron's turning 39, so let's say he's got 3 years left. They gotta play each other. We don't know how good Golden State's going to be going forward. We don't know if they're going to get this far. We don't know if the Lakers are going to get this far or wherever these guys are going to end up playing because, So I just think, again, the odds say this may never happen again.
And we have to give a Ryan Goodman, Tanguay along for the ride, salute to Kevin Looney for the way he's playing. Is coming up when they need it most, giving them what they need in the middle, right? I mean, there's a need. There's given the role that you properly thought James Wiseman was supposed to have 2 years ago. If not, this kid is doing it. It's absolutely giving him 21 rebounds, offensive rebounds. Oh my God, So
I mean, LeBron, I know has had some injuries and has maintenance days, but have we ever seen a player at this age be still this effective?
The answer, of course, is no. I mean, at the end, Kareem had moments. Kareem was, but this last year he averaged like 10 or 12 points a game. Right. And he had his moments every now and then. But and he was still their center in the middle. But
it would be Tom Brady in football, right?
I was going to say Brady. That's it. I mean, anybody else? I think that's kind of. What's that?
How good was Gordie Howe when he was in his late 30s?
He's still pretty good because he played into his 50s.
Right.
So he had to be still pretty good. In basketball, though, this is,
It's a marvel. I mean, I'm just amazed. I mean, LeBron James at 39 could be the MVP of the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
With his body, too, type. Like, that's the other part of it. You would have thought that his body would have broken down because of how big, strong, how he plays the game. And again, it's worn down some, but he's been around when it matters.
He spends $1 million a year on maintenance.
He works, man. I've seen him. He works in the offseason.
I mean, literally, that's not a hyperbolic throwaway line statement. He supposedly spends $1 million a year on all the aspects of keeping his body in the shape that it's in, and it's well worth the investment for him, no question. So anyway, they're here. They have to be taken seriously until Davis goes down. I mean, really, put that timer, that shaker over.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, gents. Anything else before we go? We all good?
All good.
Great stuff as always. Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, thank you very much. This episode of the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay Along for the Ride podcast brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the playoffs because right now new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Until next week, gentlemen, we'll see you later.
The Ryan Goodman and Tanguay Podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.